Hello and welcome to a new video on IGCSE Mathematics. In this video, we shall be discussing translations. We shall begin by drawing or graphing translations. Draw the image of shape A after a translation by the vector 2 and -3. So the way I like to solve this is to first get the points on image A or on shape A. So I'm just going to call these A small, B small, and C small. I'm going to write down the coordinates of each, but I'm going to write them instead of as a coordinate pair, I'm going to write it as a vector. So for example, the coordinates of A are 1 for X and 1 for Y. So I'm going to write it instead as 1, 1, like this. So A is 1, 1. B would be 2, 1. The X is on top and the Y is at the bottom. Just like we do with vectors, I and j, x is I and y is j. Finally, the c is going to be 2, 2. Now, the rule for translation is very simple. A plus t equals a dash. A dash is the image of A, so it's the new point that we reach. So in order to get A dash and B dash and C dash, all we have to do is just to add t. So what is t? T is given in the question. It's the translation vector, which is 2 and -3. It's given in the problem. So all we have to do here is just add this vector to the 3 points. So plus 2, -3, plus 2, -3, and plus 2, -3 as well. And you find the answer to each, and this will be the location of the new vector. So this here will be 3, -2. This here will be 4, -2. And the third one will be 4 and -1. This is, of course, A dash, B dash, and C dash. Now you can rewrite them as points, or you can just plot them directly, but as points, they would be like this: 3, -2, 4, -2, and 4, -1. And these are the points that we want to plot on the graph. So 3, -2 would be right here. This would be A dash. And then for B dash, it's 4 and -2. And for C dash, it's 4 and -1. So our triangle is going to look like this. This is triangle A capital. So 3, -2, 4, -2, and 4, -1 are the correct choices. Draw the image of triangle A after a translation by the vector -2 and 4. So again, let's call this A small, B small, C small. I'm just going to write them as vectors straight away. So A, B, C. A is -3, -5. B is -3, -3. And C is 1, -3. I'm going to add to each of them the translation vector that they gave us, which is -2 and 4. I'm just going to write this down in each case here. And I'm going to add the vectors together. Of course, we add the top element with the top element and the bottom with the bottom. So this is -5 and -1. This here would be -5 and +1. And the third one would be -1 and +1. Next, we just plot these onto the graph. So -5 and -1. This would be right there. This would be A dash. And then for B, it's -5 and +1. So B dash, I mean. And then for C dash, it's -1 and +1. So this is C dash right there. And we can just draw the triangle like this. and label it triangle A. So -5 and 1, -1 and 1, and -5, -1 are the correct choices here. Same process again in this question. So we want to translate A. So this is A small, B small, and C small. It's a good idea to just locate them on the triangle like this, and you write them down, A, B, and C. So A is -2 and 2. B would be 1 and 2. And C would be -1 and 4. In each case, we're going to add the given translation, which is -3 and 2. And then we just add the vectors together. So we have -5 and 4, -2 and 4, and finally -4 and 6. And we just plot these onto the graph. So -5 and 4 would be here. This is A dash. And then -2 and 4 would be here. So B dash. And finally, -4 and 6. This is C dash. And you join them together. And this is the new triangle A, or A capital dash. That would also work. So -5 and 4, -2 and 4, -4 and 6 are the correct answers here. Let's repeat the same process again for this question. A, B, and C. We write them down, A, B, C. So A is 1, 2. B is 5, 2. And C is 1, 8. And we add to them the translation vector here, which is -2, -9 in all of them. And we add the vectors together, so we get -1, -7, 3 and -7, and finally -1 and -1. We plot these points onto the graph. So -1, -7 is here. This is A dash. And then 3 and -7 would be here. This would be B dash. And finally, -1 and -1 would be C dash. And we join these points together. And this is our new triangle, A dash. Of course, in the exam, you can use a pencil and a ruler to join them more properly than I did. I'm just writing on the screen, so therefore it's not as accurate as one would hope. So anyway, -1, -1, -1, -7, and 3, -7 are correct. Here we have a weird shape. We have a flag. That doesn't really matter. It's the same technique again. We have A, and we have B, and we have C for the triangle, and then we have an extra point here, point D, which we need to take into account as well. So let's just write A, B, C, D, and let's write down the coordinates as vectors. So for A, we have -6, -1. For B, we have -5, -2. For C, -4, -1. And for D, -1 and -1. we're going to add the translation vector, which is 6 and -2. And we're going to calculate the new positions. So we have here 0, -3. We have 1, -4, 2, -3, and 5, -3. Finally, we plot these onto the graph. So we start at 0, -3. This is A dash. And then 1, -4. This would be B dash. And then 2, -3. So this would be C dash. Finally, 5, -3. This would be D dash. And we can see that the shape looks something like this. This is F dash, the new flag. So here, they didn't specify what the correct translation is, but anyway, it looks all right. It looks correct. Here we want to translate triangle A by this given vector. So let's take the points again, A, B, and C. Let's write them down. So A is 0, 1. B is 0, 2. Excuse me, this is C. C is 0, 2. And B is 3, 1. And you're going to add the translation vector, which is -5 and 3 to each of them. So you get here -5 and 4. You get -2 and 4. And you get -5 and 5. Finally, you plot these onto the graph. So you have -5 and 4, -5 and 5. So -5 and 4 would be A dash, -5 and 5 would be B dash, and -2 and 4 would be C dash. And this would be your triangle here. Triangle A dash. So the ordered pairs are -5 and 4, -5 and 5, and -2 and 4. These are correct. So we have again a triangle. Let's follow the same procedure, ABC. And we have ABC here, like this. And you write down the ordered pairs, so -4 and 1 for A, and then -4 and 4 for B, and then -2 and 4 for C. And then you add the translation vector, 7, -5. You get here 3, -4, 3, -1, and 5, -1. And you plot them down on the graph. So 3 and -4 would be here. This would be A dash. 3, -1. This would be B dash. And 5, -1 would be C dash. And the triangle looks something like this. This is the new triangle A, or A dash, like this. A dash means the image of A, of course. So 3, -1, and 3, -4, and 5, -1 are the correct answers here. Let's repeat the same process again. for triangle T. So this is A, this is B, and this is C. We write down A, B, C like this. So A is 2, 2. B is 6, 2. Excuse me. And C is 6, 4. You add the translation vector, which is -2, -5. So you get here 0, -3, 4, -3, 4, -1. And then you plot these onto the graph. So 0, -3 would be here. 4, -3 would be here. And 4, -1 would be here. So this would be A dash, B dash, and C dash. And then we join them together like we did before. And this would be T dash, which is the translation of triangle T by -2, -5. FYI, this means 2 to the left and 5 down. So negative in vectors would be to the left for the upper element, and would be down for the lower element. So 2 steps to the left and 5 steps down. If you try to think of it graphically, we actually shifted triangle T 2 steps to the left and then 5 steps down. But it's just easier to solve it using vectors than to try and think of it geometrically. I find that the numbers are easier to figure out. Excuse me, let's bring the text back so that we can compare to the marking scheme. So 0, -3, 4, -1, and 4, -3 are the correct answers here. Here we have a trapezium instead of a triangle, but it's the same logic, of course. So we have A, B, but we have here an extra point because there are 4 points defining this shape. You can take as many points as you want. Normally, I just like to take all the corners of the shape so that I can draw the new shape easily. So we have A dash, excuse me, we have A, B, C, D first. We plot down the coordinates like we normally do. So -3 and 1, followed by -1 and 1, followed by -2 and 3, and then finally -3 and 3. Now we add the translation vector, which is -3 and 4. So we get -6 and 5, -4 and 5, -5 and 7, and -6 and 7. We try to plot these on the graph. So we have -6 and 5. This is there. And then we have -4 and 5. So this is A dash, this is B dash. And then we have -5 and 7. So this would be somewhere here. This is C dash. And then finally, we have -6 and 7. So this would be D dash. And we join them together. And we get the new shape A dash. And again, this moved 3 steps to the left, followed by 4 steps up. You don't really have to write this down as long as you understand how we got it and you have the correct coordinate pairs, you're fine. So -6, 5, -6, 7, -5, 7, and -4, 5 are the correct answers. Line A line joins A to B. The line AB is transformed to the line PQ. Find the coordinates of P and the coordinates of Q after AB is transformed by vector 5, -2. So A here is 1, 3. So let's write it as a vector. B is 5, 8. And then you add the translation vector, which is 5, -2. And you get 6, 1, and 10, 6. So this is P and this is Q, but because they said find the coordinates, so let's transform it back into an ordered pair. So it's going to look like this, 6, 1. And here it's going to look like this, 10, 6. Of course, the first one is P and the second one is Q. So 6, 1 and 10, 6 are the correct answers. We're back to graphing. So we have a trapezium here again, A, B, C, and D. We write the points down. So A, B, C, and D like this. For A, we have 2, 1. For B, we have 5, 1. For C, we have 5, 3. And for D, we have 4, 3. We're going to add the translation vector here, which is -1, 6. And we're going to get the final point for each. So this is 1, 7. This is 4, 5. Excuse me, this is 4, 7. Here we have 4, 9. And here we have 3, 9. Let's plot them onto the graph. So we have 1, 7. This is A dash. And then 4, 7 is B dash. And 4, 9 would be C dash. And then finally 3, 9 would be D dash. So there it is. This is the new shape T dash. 1, 7, 4, 7, 4, 9, and 3, 9 are the correct answers. In the next part of the video, we shall be discussing how to describe translations. Describe fully the single transformation that maps triangle T onto triangle A. So in this case, we want to get the translation vector. How do we know that this is a translation? So you have 4 types of transformations: translations, rotations, enlargements, and reflections. So if you have the same size, if the shapes are of the same size, then it's not an enlargement. If they have the same orientation, then no rotation occurred. And here as well, you can easily see that this is not a reflection. You're not reflecting over an axis or anything. So this is obviously a translation because it's just that you shifted the shape. You moved the shape to the right or to the left or up or down. So this is a translation. They won't tell you that this is a translation, but by looking at the shape, you can tell that no change occurred except a change in location. Therefore, this is what we call a translation. So we want to go from T to A. So the rule, like we said before, is A plus T equals A dash. T here is the translation vector. Here, this is a bit confusing because the triangle itself is called T. So let's just change the name of the triangle here. Instead of T, for example, I'm just going to call it F or something so as not to be confused. So let's just call this here F for now. And the rule will become F plus T equals F dash. Now, how many points do we need in order to get T? Our purpose here is to get T. So the idea is that you only need 1 point, and I'm going to show you why. So F dash here is what we actually have F dash. We just don't have T. And F dash is actually called A. So this is triangle A. So let's just take 1 point and its image. So let's, for example, take this point here. This point is -4, 1. And the corresponding point in A would be 1, -5. So you can just write these as vectors. So you have here -4, 1 plus our unknown, let's just call it xy, and this is equal to 1 and -5. So how do you find the vector xy? You just simply take this vector to the other side with subtraction. So you have xy equals 1, -5 minus -4 and 1. So 1 minus -4 is the same as, or you can write it just to make yourself more comfortable, 1 minus -4, -5 minus 1. So 1 minus -4 is 1 plus 4, so this is 5. -5 minus 1 is -6. So your translation vector is 5, -6. And this is the correct answer. Let's try this one more time. Again, first we look at the drawing. We see that no rotation occurred or reflection or enlargement. It's just a moving of the shape. It's a translation of the shape. We're going from T onto A. So I'm going to take one point in T. Let's call this A small, for example. And the corresponding point on A would be A dash. So we have A and we have A dash. We can just write them down. A is 6, 6. And A dash would be 5, 1. So we can say that A small plus T, the translation, equals A dash. Now, A is 6, 6. T is unknown. This is what we want to figure out. And A dash is 5, 1. Like we did in the previous problem, we'll take this to the other side with subtraction. So we have xy equals 5, 1 minus 6, 6. And this is equal to -1, -5. And this is actually the final answer. So it's a translation. So you have to write the word translation, of course, by, and then you write down the vector that you got, which is -1 and -5. Translation by -1, -5 is the correct answer here. Describe fully the single transformation that maps A onto B. Of course, we can see that A and B have the same shape and orientation. So this is obviously a translation. So this is going to be our A, and the same point is going to be our A dash. We have to take the same point. So here I took the bottom left point and the bottom left point. I could have, for example, taken B and B dash. This would have also worked, no problem. But you cannot take B with A dash, for example. This will give you the wrong translation. So we have to take the two corresponding points together. So let's work with A here. We have 4 and 1. And for A dash, we have -4 and 3. So 4, 1 plus xy equals -4 and 3. Now we'll take this to the other side. So we get xy equals -4 and 3 minus 4 and 1. And this gives us -8 and 2. So therefore, this is a translation by -8 and 2. This is the correct answer. For the final question in this video, we want to transform flag A onto flag B. It's the same process again. We just take two corresponding points. Let's call this A, and let's write the coordinates, -8 and -3. And let's take the corresponding point on B. So let's call this A dash here. So this is -3 and 5. And we're going to write translation here. Translation by, and we need to get the vector. So we write down the equation A plus T equals A dash. A is -8, -3. T is unknown, so this is X and Y. A dash is -3 and 5. You take this to the other side. So XY equals -3 and 5 minus -8 and -3. So -3 minus -8, this is +5. 5 minus -3, this is +8. So it's a translation by +5 and +8. And this is the correct answer as well. So this brings us to the end of our video. I hope this has been beneficial. Thank you for watching.